Hey y'all, it's Christy Cook from Teadoddles. Today it's time for part 2 of my Lion Brand haul. I purchased several different types of yarn off of lionbrand.com so that they are all yarns that you may or may not have seen before. Most of these I have never seen in any of the big box stores that you would normally find them in. I normally find Lion Brand yarns in. So, I have done 5 of them so far. The plan is to do a knit and crochet swatch with it and then tell you what I think about it. And then I'm also going to frog it live. It's not live, y'all. I'm going to frog it in front of y'all so we can see how well it undoes, because I did leave these attached to the skein because I want to make a project with them next. So I also have 3 more yarns to share with y'all that I ordered after the first video. So let's just get right into it, shall we? The first one I have sitting here is called Chainette. I think my camera is trying to fall. Be still. Okay. This is what it looks like. It comes in this little ball pancake type skein. It is 70% baby alpaca, 18% virgin wool, and 12% polyamide. It is a soft and fluffy yarn. I don't have an itch factor. I can feel the wool in it, which has a slightly more textured feel to it than some yarns. So, but it doesn't itch. There's 131 yards, 1.75 ounces, and this retails for $8.99 a skein on lionbrand.com. Now, I will say that I ordered all of these with a 45% off coupon that I got in my email. So, I did not pay full price for any of these. Now, each of these give a recommended needle and hook size, and then they give the count for a 4x4 swatch. So that is what I did. Some of the knitting I did not quite make it all the way, but once I felt like I had enough information about it, I didn't necessarily knit all of the rows because I am a fairly new knitter. I learned to knit in January, so it takes me a lot longer than crochet. So let's take a look at the crochet swatch. Okay, here's my crochet swatch, and also I did double crochet for most of these instead of single crochet because it was faster. So this is my swatch with crochet. It said 14 single crochet, 16 rows, which I counted my double crochet as 2 single crochet when I did it this way. My swatch measures 4.5 inches wide by 5 inches. So it was bigger with the recommended stitch count that they gave, even in width. We could maybe take a little bit off vertically because I did double crochet, but for the most part, it was a little bigger than what they did. And I would be what I would consider an average crocheter. I don't crochet very loosely. I don't crochet very tightly. Most of the time I can hit gauge on most things that they give. So I did use the recommended I9 or 5.5 millimeter hook size that they asked for, that they required. I felt like that was a good hook size for this. Because see how airy it is? It's very airy. If you wanted a tighter stitch, you might want to go down a hook size. I do like the fabric this made. It's very squishy and soft. Can be making a nice squishy cowl out of this, or if you had a larger quantity, even a cardigan, I think it would be very nice. It's not too thick. We can look at the side of it. Now let's compare that to my knitting swatch. Here's my knitting swatch. Let's show them together. So the one thing I will say about the knitting, this thread is consistent. It's not thick and thin, but it looks thick and thin when I knitted with it. You can see the puffs. Of course, that could just be me And that didn't happen with all the yarn, so I'm just noticing that. So I would prefer to crochet with this because I like the squishiness and the airiness that it created with the crochet. I think it still would make a wonderful knit garment. Like I said, a sweater or a cardigan would be really nice out of this. So see, I've moved this off my I have a long cable down here with all my swatches on, because I would move them onto the cable after I finish so I could keep them attached to the yarn. And one reason I haven't done it anymore is because my bag was full. So I needed to do this so I can pull them out. And I just moved it onto this to show y'all. Now this one recommends an 8 or 5 millimeter needle size. And 18 stitches or 26 rows. I did get a 4x4 swatch with 24 rows versus 26, so that's pretty close. And so now we're going to see how well it pulls out both in knit and crochet. All right, I'm going to take it out because I do want to make a project. I think I will be making a crochet project with these 2 skeins of yarn. Like I said, it'll be a scarf, a cowl, a hat, something like that. I think I would prefer something around my neck with this because it's just nice and squishy. So let's see how well it pulls out. Pulling out very nicely with the knit. Okay, I haven't. All right, so that pulls out very well. I'm not gonna pull out the whole thing. That might take a minute if I do that for all of them. So the other thing I will say about knitting with that, I found that my needles got hung up in it. I feel like if you used very sharp pointed needles, you may have issues with that. I was actually using my cables, my interchangeable knitting needle set that I got from Blueprint, which I actually really like. I'm going to do a review on that later on, but I actually really enjoy that, and that's what I use for all of these swatches. And it has it's not a pointy point, but it has a nice point, and plus the metal on it is brushed, so it's kind of grippy, so I enjoyed that. All right, let me take my stitch marker out the end of this. Let's see how well it pulls. All right, see, pulling out very nicely with the crochet stitches as well. Okay, so I didn't find this to be very snaggy when I was crocheting it. Like I said, with the knitting, I did have to watch where I put my needle because it tended to want to go between the yarn or into the yarn fiber versus under it. So, all right, there we go. That pulls out very nicely. I do like the fabric it makes with it. As I said, I feel that I would be doing a crochet project with that, probably a nice squishy cowl. I think that's what I'll do with that one. I didn't enjoy knitting with it as much as I did some of the others. So now let's moving right along. We have the Merino Camel, and these, I think, well, all but one of these are all from the LB collection online. So this is the Merino Camel. This is oh, and by the way, that was a number 4 weight yarn. I don't think I said it, and it was the color mustard. Okay, so this is Merino Camel, which is a number 2 weight, 80% merino wool and 20% camel. I've never had yarn with camel in it before. I did not know they made yarn with that, so that was interesting. You get 136 yards, 1.75 ounces, and this retails for $7.99 on their website. Here is the yarn. It's also in a little ball type skein. Anything else? Oh, this is the color tan. It's tan. Pretty basic. Okay, so this is okay, so this is soft, but it has a texture. Like if I rub it against my neck, I can feel the texture of the yarn. but it doesn't feel uncomfortable. I don't know how it would feel after you wore it for a while, but I can feel the texture in the yarn, like the twists in the yarn, if that makes any sense. It is a very nice yarn. I did enjoy crocheting and knitting with it. Crochet uses a G6 or 4mm hook, 18 single crochet, 20 rows, and I got gauge on this perfectly. Okay, and see the stitches. And this yarn has great stitch definition, which I usually expect with wool anyway, but this is really nice stitch definition with that. And we'll compare it to, hold on a second, I forgot to take my swatch off of my cable. Give me just a minute. Okay, wasn't able to get that on my needles because it's a much smaller gauge than the needle I picked up, but I went ahead and took it off. You can see, I don't think that's my dog, that's dog carry-on, but it makes very nice stitches, very defined stitches. I actually really enjoyed knitting with this. There's a couple puckers, but that's due to me, not the yarn. This would make a very cozy sweater, I think. It's slightly stiff. It doesn't have a huge amount of drape to it. Put those two together and see, it gives nice stitch definition though, I think, with this yarn, which is typical of the wools from what I've noticed. So and for the knitting, I got, it said 24 stitches and 32 rows. I didn't make it to 32 rows. I made it 19 rows, which gave me 2.5 inches by 4 inches. I didn't write down the stitches per inch. I can't do the math, but I felt like that was probably going to be on gauge because I did get gauge this away. So what is that? 13 more rows. But I don't, yeah, that'd probably be right. That's 1.5 inches more. I feel like that probably would have been on gauge. So there's this Merino Camel. Let me pull it out. This pulls out very easily, y'all. This is like no resistance. It kind of makes a sound. I can hear it. I doubt y'all can hear that, but definitely pulls out nicely for the knitting. Uh-oh, what did I do? That's the wrong yarn ball. This was really fun with the yarns that I only had one ball of. Alright, so let me take my stitch marker out. That's the one thing about the swatches and crochet. I could just put a stitch marker in it. And let's pull it out. Also pulls out very nicely. And I also can hear a slight sound. So, yeah. No tangling issues with that. I did not have issues with this splitting or anything like that. I've really enjoyed crocheting and knitting with that yarn. I will probably make a knitted object with that, a project with that. That will probably be a knitted project because I like the knit a little bit more than the crochet with that particular one. Okay? So, even now, we're going to move on to the next one, which is Tweedledee. Tweedledee. This is a number 3 weight. You get 5.3 ounces, 310 yards. It is 75% acrylic and 25% cotton. It is also $7.99 a cake. They come in a cake like this. If you look at that yarn, you can really see the texture of the twist in this yarn, which gave this yarn, the fabric you make with it, a very interesting texture in of itself because of the stitches plus the defined twist that you got with it. Okay, I really like the feel of it. It's very soft against the skin, even with the texture. I feel like if I made something with, well, I will be making something with this, I'll be touching it all the time because it's the way it feels. I like the texture of it. Now this one called for a 8 or 5 millimeter crochet hook. Here is my crochet gauge, my crochet swatch. This makes a very stretchy crochet fabric. Can you see? Not all crochet stretches that much in this direction, especially. It does in this direction usually, but this is a very stretchy fabric, and it's kind of see-through-ish, more so than some things can be. I did use the hook it recommended. I feel like I probably could go down a hook with this. It's 17 stitches and 24 rows for 4 by 4. I got 4 1/4 by 3 1/2 with just 20 rows. So I probably could have got that other 1/2 inch with, I don't know, I think it would have been more because I know this way it was already slightly more with my gauge. So it's a very interesting. I've been sitting here feeling this, trying to figure out what kind of garment you would make out of it. I don't feel that this would be very nice as a hat at all, even the knit swatch. It may be okay as some kind of neck thing, but I don't think that, I feel like it should be a tank top. I'm just gonna be honest. I think it would be a nice, cool, comfy tank top. Although it doesn't have a higher bit of acrylic than some of them, I just don't see this being a material that I would want for a hat or scarf. It's not that warm, honestly. I don't think it's gonna be that warm. Cotton can be warm, but it is known to be cooler, so I don't think that it would be that warm, honestly. So let's look at my swatch. I'm just gonna take it off. Knitting wise, it's called for a 6 or 4 millimeter knitting needles, 22 stitches by 28 rows. I got 4 inches by 3 3/4, 3 1/2-ish, with 24 rows. Okay, 3 1/4. So that would be 4 more rows. I would say this is pretty much on gauge. Okay, so this is the knitting one, which I really like. This is also super stretchy. Knitting tends to be more stretchy anyway, but this yarn just gives so much to it. I really do like the pattern of the knitting. I like the crochet stitches. If I did a different stitch with it, I think it would be better. That's just double crochet. I like I would probably, this would be a yarn that I would do something like a lemon peel stitch with, or something like that, where you get a denser fabric. It is nice to touch. I don't know what I'm going to make with this, because I don't think that it's really appropriate for a hat or scarf or anything like that. So I'm going to have to think on that for a minute. And I still haven't decided. I do like the knit a little better, but I feel like if I did a lemon peel stitch with this, I would be okay with this. So this one is kind of undecided for me. Let's see how it pulls out. This is the crochet. It's also pulling out very nicely. Not a lot of fuzz on this fabric, this thread. Now that first chainette thread, that first chainette yarn was fuzzy. It's fuzzy. The Merino Camel, not fuzzy at all, really. There's a little bit of a halo and some fibers sticking out, but it's not fuzzy. So that pulls out very nicely. Now let's test out the, oh yeah, pulling out just as nicely with the knitting. Okay, no issues with the frogging. I'll finish frogging all of these when I can get them wound up. I'm trying not to make a big old mess. Tangly mess. Okay, next we have the Mako Cotton. Also part of the LB collection. Mako Cotton. Okay. This is 94% Mako Cotton and 6% nylon. This is this is gonna blow out the camera. This is called orange, but I would say it's more of a coral color to me. It looks very orange on camera, but it's very glowy. It's a coral, so it's showing up bright on there. It's not quite that bright. It's a number 4. It is 125 yards, 1.75 ounces. And this is $5.99 a skein. Okay. Now, someone in the comments asked me what Mako Cotton is. Mako Cotton is grown in Egypt. Okay. It's prized for its long fiber length, which makes it stronger and softer. So that's what Mako Cotton is. Now there's also Pima Cotton, which is also a long fiber cotton, but it is typically grown here in the United States. So they are very similar fibers. They both have almost the same qualities. It's just the area that they're grown in. Mako Cotton is grown in Egypt, I believe close to the Nile River or something like that. Don't quote me on that. And Pima Cotton is grown in the States usually. Okay? They're both higher end cottons. I learned that a little bit more about that today when I was doing research for my thread post on the blog. So this is the most soft and squishy yarn, y'all. I love this yarn, and I will be ordering more of it, because for some reason I only ordered 1 skein, which is not enough to make anything really, because it's a number 4 weight. So, and there's only 125 yards on it. I was going to order some when they had their August coupon for 40% off, but then it expired before I ordered it. So I'm waiting for that, and I will be ordering more of this. It was a delight to crochet and knit with. It has the chainette type construction of the yarn, like the chainette I showed you before, which makes it very light and airy. Oh, y'all, I can't stop touching this. This is my crochet swatch. An I-9 or 5.5 millimeter hook, 14 single crochet, 16 rows. So I got 3 3/4 by 4 1/4 with about 13 rows. So I got a little bigger with less rows. So yeah, but the fabric, look at the stitch definition too. This has really good stitch definition for the chainette. Much better, in my opinion. I use half double crochets on this too, which is what I'm talking about, using a tighter stitch on some of these is going to give you denser fabric and crochet. And then let's just go ahead and take a look at the knitted patch. Now this did the same thing as the chainette did when knitting with it. You get the bigger and smaller stitches. And I think that's the knitting compressing the stitches more, maybe. I don't know, but I didn't have that issue. It doesn't look like that when you crochet with it. It doesn't look like a thin and thick yarn when you crochet with it versus when you knit with it. Okay. I do like both of the fabrics it produced. I want to touch this all the time. Just think, if you get really high quality cotton sheets, how soft it is. This is like even better. I need to quit rubbing this on my face. I have makeup on my face. Yeah. So, you could make a super sumptuous washcloth with this. It's got that little bit of nylon in it. But I have plans to crochet me a big squishy cowl. I already have a pattern picked out for this. I just need to get more yarn. I won't be getting this color because I do love this color. If you've watched some of my fabric shows, you know that I have a lot of fabric in this color to make shirts with and stuff already. I don't really need a cowl that's the same color. I need to get something more neutral. So, although I would love to knit a sweater out of this because it would be so fabulous. I'm just gonna tell you. I don't know how warm it'll be because it's cotton. Cotton breathes more, but it would be so comfortable. And with an undershirt in my area, it'd probably be just fine. Love this. I can't say enough about it. I love it. Have I said it enough? All right, now let's see how good it is at frogging. Okay, look at there. Just comes right out. No problems with the knitting and frogging. And look how curly it made the yarn. That yarn got really curly. All right, now let's test the frogging on the crochet. Here we go. Look at there. No issues. No issues. I had no issues with splitting in this yarn. Even with the knitting, that other chainette yarn, I didn't have issues with splitting. I had issues with my needle going between, which I guess that is splitting. But I feel like maybe I should have been using a different size needle because I felt like that may have gone up in the needle size. It may have helped that, but this pulls out so wonderfully. I love this yarn, y'all. This is like my new favorite yarn. Okay? All right. My nose is itching. All the fibers floating in the air. Okay. Now, the last one I did for today is Merino Silk Cotton. So, this is another LB collection. This is 50% merino, 25% silk, and 25% cotton. So, this has made for this is a very sturdy yarn. I'm going to say that. It's not like, it's not something I'd want to make a pillow out of. I can tell you that right now. I have to wonder if you made a garment out of this, if this would be comfortable to wear. It feels like it would be abrasive. You know, it's not like abrasive like to touch it like this, but I feel like if I kept rubbing my face, I'm going to have a red spot, which you would with most fibers, but that's what I mean by abrasive. I don't mean by it's uncomfortable completely, but it's very close to some dishcloth cottons to me, the feel of it. Okay, it is a very nice yarn. I will put that because it has the sheen. It's got that linen in it, not linen, cotton and silk. You know, silk is not a super soft, does not make a super soft yarn depending on how it's spun. All right, so this is 191 yards, 1.75 ounces. It's $5.99 a skein for that. Okay, and this is the color boysenberry. Okay, so here's my crochet swatch. Great stitch definition certainly with this. I'm wondering how it would wash up because of that cotton, which tends to shrink a lot, even if you air dry it, which you would. It does have great stitch definition. A D3 3.25 millimeter hook. That was too small to me. Okay, when I first started off, it felt too tight. I continued on with it. Now, when I got to my double crochets, it seemed to get better, but I still feel like I had some difficulties putting my hook in the stitches. I feel like that hook size, I didn't have that much trouble with most of the hook sizes and needle sizes they recommended, but this particular yarn I did. And I think it's because they're calling this a number one. This a number one, which it's really the same size as the Tweedledee, which is a number 2. I feel like that's incorrect. This is like a heavy number 1 if this is a number 1, in my opinion, because of the fact that it's not as squishy as like a sock yarn or a fingering weight number one. Like if you get the hand dyed yarns, it's not as squishy because of that cotton that's in there. Also the silk, that is not a very giving fiber either. 20 stitches, 32 rows. I got with 21 rows, I got a 4x4. So definitely not 32 rows. That's why I think, so if I went up a hook, then I would get a bigger swatch. So it's, I don't agree with any of the sizing on this yarn. For the hooks, for the needles, for the weight of the yarn, I don't agree with it. So now let's look at the last knit swatch. This was 28 stitches, 44 rows. I got a 4.5 by 3 inch with 23 rows. So I don't think, yeah, I think this would have been off as well, because I was at 3 inches at 23 rows already. Another inch, another 11 rows. I don't know about that, but it did make a very nice fabric. I do like the stitch definition. I like the tonal sort of quality to the yarn, the kind of faded tonal quality. Great stitch definition in this yarn for sure. As I said, this yarn, it feels, if I made a sweater out of this, I'd be afraid that it would become uncomfortable after I wore it for so long, honestly. I don't feel that this would be a very comfortable garment, personally, against your skin. Let's go ahead and do a frog test. Pulls out nicely, okay? From the knitting. Oh, we're getting hung up right there. That's because it was curled, though. Not really because of the yarn. Okay, so it does pull out great for knitting. Let's frog it for the crochet and see how that goes. Yeah, that pulls out nicely as well. It's a pretty sturdy yarn, y'all. So I'm kind of like, that's another one that I'm like, I don't know what I would make out of that. I can't see myself making a hat or scarf out of it. There was a beautiful pattern for a, was it knit? I can't remember if it was knit or crocheted shawl. That looked gorgeous, but I'm not gonna buy more of it to make that with. So I've got to think about that one as well, because I just don't know. I hate to say that I would make a dishcloth out of it because it's merino and silk, and I know that wool is not going to make a good dishcloth, but it feels like something scrubby. I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some more research on that before I figure out what I'm gonna do with that. I did like the knit. The knit is definitely drapier than the crochet. Crochet is a bit stiffer, which it tends to be, but this has got a lot more drape to it than the crochet. So those are the 5 that I've reviewed. I'd love for you to let me know down below what you think about them. If there's someone you'd really want to try, I will be listing the names and a link and the price. That is the retail price on linebrand.com. They do have, here recently they've had 40 to 45% off coupons on a regular basis, so keep an eye out for that. And those are affiliate links down below. I am an affiliate of LineBrand. All that means is that the link provided to you I would make a percentage of the sale. It doesn't cost you any more. It doesn't change your purchasing whatsoever. It just is kind of like me getting paid for advertising if I sell something. But they did not pay me to do this. I bought all of this with my own money and decided to do it on my own. So now, after I said all that, I'm going to show you the other 3 yarns that I got, okay, that I'll be doing testing on. I still have quite a few to test from the haul. If you watch the original video, I will link that down below because I always forget to put those eye things in when I say I'm going to do it. So The very first one is Stitch Bird. That's what this is called. This is a very interesting yarn. I love the colors. And this one, it has like a netting over the yarn, like a real loose netting that's black versus the color of the yarn. This is 131 yards, 3.5 ounces. It is 83% acrylic and 17% wool. It is a bulky number 5, okay? This is called Purple Martin. I saw some things knit and crochet with this, and I loved the way it looked. So, and I haven't seen this one in particular in any of my stores. They don't have that crochet layout, but yeah, that is all the colors. So, and I forgot to write down the price of this, so I will let y'all know down below what the price of this one is. That is Stitch Bird. I did get 2 of these so I could make something nice. I can see this being a hat or a cowl. I think the pattern I seen with a cowl. So, and then I also got, because I've never seen this in my store, some mandala thick and quick. Ooh, look at that. Look at the colors in that yarn, y'all. That, oh, doesn't it just scream fall? I love it. I love the speckling in it. I love when the cakes have the speckling. I think it makes them more interesting and fun. So, and that is purposeful because you can see in that little swatch thing they got going on. Look at that. That makes it look Tweety. Okay, this is only 87 yards on this cake. Is a number 6 super bulky. 5.3 ounces. This is 100% acrylic, y'all. So, but look at that. I definitely would agree with that. It's a pretty dense type of yarn too. So yeah, looking forward to making something with that. So, and then I got one more, which I actually wound up getting in 3 colors because I couldn't decide, and I like the way these colors look together, even though I don't know what I would make. This is a lot of yarn on these cakes, y'all. This is Amazing Lace, okay? This is 5.3 ounces. There is 1,017 yards on this cake of yarn. This is very soft feeling too. It is 70% acrylic and 30% nylon. It is a number 1 superfine. It is very soft, very soft. I got it in this lattice blue, this eggplant trellis, and this mesh sage. Just look at those colors together. I love, I'm gonna put that between it. Those colors, oh, I love them together. And that color combo is so pretty to me. Got the 2 darker ones, very rich, and then that mint kind of green. Yeah, I have no idea what I would make with it. I probably will be blending, like holding two together as I make it, because yeah, this is gonna be interesting. I've never knit anything this tiny, but I have crocheted with something this tiny, so that will be interesting when I do the swatches for that. So those are the 3 new ones I got, and I think the Amazing Lace I may have seen on Joann's.com. I've never seen it in the store, okay? I've never seen it in any store I've personally gone into. Of course, that's based on my area too. So yeah, those are the new ones that I'm adding. So go back to the other video to see all the yarns that I got before. Then I'm adding these into this. So I'm probably going to give myself 2 weeks before I do the next one of these. That way I can get more swatches done, and hopefully a couple of finished projects with the yarns I've already done swatches for, okay? So it will be 2 weeks before I do the next the part 3 of this. If you like, because I do have another yarn review to do. Plus I want to do a review of the Blueprint interchangeable needle set I got because I really love them. So If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Think about subscribing down below. I like to do reviews like this. I like to try to find things that are different than other people are reviewing. I know there's some other people who have reviewed some of these yarns, but I thought it would be different to do the knit and crochet swatch and see how that turns out. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.